Hey, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful Ties webinar series. We have a very special episode for you tonight. My name is Bertha Vasquez. I am the director of the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science. We are a network of classroom teachers dedicated to helping our fellow science teachers teach evolution effectively and in an engaging way. And that's why I'm so excited about my guest tonight, because Jon Perry is one of the people that helps teachers across the country teach evolution in an engaging way. And also with us today is one of my super duper biology students, Miranda Suki. So I'd like to introduce Jon Perry to everyone, but Miranda will soon be taking over and asking the questions that she and her peers wrote for Jon. So everybody, as you know, Jon Perry founded the Stated Clearly Project to promote a better understanding of biological evolution. This topic is often misunderstood and even rejected by the public. Stated Clearly animations and articles aim to explain the science in clear language that everyone can understand. I totally can agree to that. And in a friendly tone, sensitive to the cultural and religious beliefs that viewers may hold. The basic principles of biology should be freely accessible to all, independent of race, age, gender, creed, or level of education. That's awesome. We're going to start. I'm going to share my screen, everybody, in case you have never seen one of Jon's videos. He suggested I share this one with you. What is DNA and how does it work? This is the first video he ever created for Stated Clearly, so I think that's pretty cool. And it's relatively short, but I want you to notice, first of all, Stated Clearly is an understatement, how clearly he presents everything. And I just love his art, the shadow, the shading, the thick black outlines. Have a look.
Yeah, people are saying it's kind of hard to hear right now.
I'm sorry?
People are saying it's hard to hear the audio.
Okay, let me put it a little higher. Thank you. Let me know how this sounds.
That sounds staticky on my end.
Is that good? Are we getting thumbs up?
No, it's still low.
Really? That's as high as I can get it.
Yeah, I think you're playing through your microphone, so you're not getting it through your computer. But
oh, bummer. The only thing we could do is you could share your screen. You know, every webinar there's at least one tech issue.
Yeah. Well, I think the way that this program is set up, it plays through the microphone, not through the audio of the computer. So,
well, maybe that you guys got the idea there.
yeah.
So you all know where to find. Actually, would you type into the chat, Jon, your website? Is it statedclearly.com?
Yes, statedclearly.com.
Okay. Ah, see, Mars has the right idea.
I could live narrate it.
Yes.
No.
Well, you know what? I'm going to step back and let my student Miranda take over. I know she wrote some questions for you. And guys, everybody, when Miranda's done with her questions, please ask questions and I'll go ahead and ask them in the there's an ask a question section down there, and I'll go ahead and ask them afterwards. So all yours, Miranda.
Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Miranda Suki. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm one of Ms. Vasquez's 8th grade biology students. And I'm very excited to be interviewing Jon Perry from Stated Clearly today. So, Jon, if you're ready, let's get right to it.
Yeah, let's go. Yep.
Okay, well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where are you from? What did you study?
I am from the state of Oregon. I was born in Astoria, but kind of raised in Albany, near Corvallis. And My actual training is in graphic design. So when I was a kid, I loved drawing all the time. And I noticed that I would just draw all these pictures that are supposed to go up on the wall, but there wasn't enough wall space. So I thought I want my art to be able to do something. And so with that in mind, I decided that graphic design should have been what I studied. So I did that. I worked a bunch of different jobs in graphic design, and I really wanted to teach biology with my art. So I actually ended up first I got a job at Oregon State University, helping professors there prepare their lessons for online classes. And then I just started doing it freelance on my own. So I just started this Data Clearly project from there. So
Yeah. So you've always liked to draw, but then you sort of fell into biology. Like, what made you so interested in science?
Yeah. My interest in biology and in science in general came very young. There was this realization I had that you can actually learn stuff not just by listening to your parents or your teachers, but you can learn stuff by studying nature. And the first big aha moment of this was I was petting my dog, and I realized that he had this weird joint on his back leg that looked like a backwards knee. And I realized that was his heel bone, and that dogs walk on their tiptoes. And that aside from that and a couple of other things, they're very similar to us. Like they have shoulder blades on the front legs, hips on the back legs. So their front legs are our arms. And I got really excited about this. I was telling my parents about it, and they're like, yeah, I guess that's true. So there was just this big realization for me that I can learn stuff on my own. And
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. There's the backwards knee. That's actually the heel bone of the cat. So that was this big interest in science that I had. And so I started paying attention to what scientists do. I was probably 5 or 6 years old at the time. I started really paying attention to what scientists do, what biologists do. I was studying my dog in this case. And so there's just this big attraction that I had to science. I started volunteering at zoos when I was old enough to do that, and doing, teaching biology in that way. And that just led to, and I ended up having a really strong understanding of biology. When I was in college, I was studying graphic design, but I did it, all my extra classes I took were in biology because that was my fascination. And so by the time that I started doing Data Clearly animations, I already had a pretty good biology background. And what I required really beyond that was making sure that every video I make is accurate. And to do that, I would work with scientists to make sure that what I'm teaching is accurate. So.
Right. And so you work with scientists, and obviously that has to, and you draw them. So that has to take a certain amount of time and a lot of effort. And as someone who watches your video, thank you so much for that effort. But how much time does it take you to make a video?
It really depends. If it's a topic that I know really well already. So the first animation that I did, what is DNA and how does it work? The preparation for that was pretty quick. That was, I'd taken biology courses in college and I learned all that stuff. I was frustrated with how it was taught. If you look in a textbook, they start out usually when they teach genetics, they start out by talking about the molecular structure of DNA. And you can get into the details of this, like what types of atoms are in the molecule and so on. And it can really bog you down because you don't even know why you're learning it. I wanted to teach it from the perspective of what DNA is, how does it actually, code for protein. But I already understood all this, so it was pretty quick to write that script. The hard thing was animating it because I hadn't done an animation at that time. So in that case, it was really quick to write. And it was just the actual video production took several months in that case because I was doing a bunch of trial and error. Nowadays, usually if it's a new topic, it can take me months just to get all caught up on the literature. And then usually it takes two weeks to a month to do the animation side of things, just depending on how complex the animation is and how much of assets that I've already created I can reuse for the animation. So 2 weeks to a month for the animation, and a week to several months for the writing of the script.
Wow. That's absolutely wonderful. You put so much effort into every single one of your videos, but surely you must have like one or two that you just really, really like your favorite.
Yeah. I would say, well, one of my favorites is the original one. What is DNA and how does it work? Just because I feel like I was able to add something really special to the what's out there as far as learning genetics. Because, like I said, most people start by talking about the structure of DNA nucleotides, and I was able to just get to the bulk, the meat and the potatoes of what genetics is, in 5 minutes. That video is only about 5 minutes long. So I'm really proud of that one. And my personal favorite one is what is the evidence for evolution? Because
Yeah.
and that
I
one
use that one a lot.
Yeah, she does.
And that one's fun because it shows people in a way that's very visual. Like, look, I go over whale evolution, and when we look at embryology, we look at comparative anatomy, we look at genetics and a bunch of different things to see that, okay, yeah, whales did really evolve from land mammals. And it's very obvious when you see all those things together that is the case. And I feel like I'm really proud of that one because it's just, if you come into it with doubts, it's very obvious by the time you're done watching that video that evolution is a thing. This is really how the world works.
I'd love to jump in there a second. I made that part of the TIES virtual unit when we all went into lockdown, and kids, we weren't sure if teachers were going to be in their classrooms facing children or children were going to be on their own, learning on their own. And the units that I created include that wonderful video because I love how all the multiple lines of evidence for evolution come in. The unit has been downloaded over 2,000 times.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So that video is in a unit that's been downloaded for entire school districts. So
yeah, nice.
That's cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and that's actually my most. It's my second most popular video that I've ever made. The most popular one is about COVID-19, and it's because I published it probably 3 days before the U.S. finally took COVID-19 seriously. And it just happened to be the only thing good on the online that talked about COVID. So it got an explosion of views. But the DNA animation and what is evidence for evolution, those have consistent views during the school year. So people are using them constantly during the school year. And then it dies down during summer vacation. But
that's great.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay, well, we're talking about all this evidence for evolution, which is amazing. That's great that it's such a well-documented theory. But something that really interested me from that video particularly was vestigial structures. Mm-hmm. And it was some of those like weird science facts that you don't really know. And then when you hear them, it's just fun. It's like a little Easter egg in the middle of the school year. And I know that you started learning science because of your dog. You found this weird fact. So are there any other like cute, like quirky little science facts that just seem to surprise you?
Yeah, so my favorite one, and I haven't done a video on this yet. It just hasn't. I've never been able to do it. There's always something that gets in my way. There's some other project that has to be done first. But there is a turtle in Australia, the Fitzroy River turtle, that breathes through its butt. And this is the weirdest thing ever. Technically, it breathes through its cloaca, but it has lungs like a normal turtle does. But it spends so much time underwater, and it lives in a river that has extremely high oxygen dissolved into that river because there's a lot of turbulence in the water. And a turtle's skin is absorbent. It can absorb oxygen through its skin. And it just so happens that the inside of the cloaca is extra absorbent. And a lot of turtles have these little sacs inside the cloaca where feces will actually sit for a while before it's excreted. And that's so that salts and other minerals can be absorbed into the bloodstream before it goes out. In humans, the colon sort of does that same thing. And so you have this tissue and these large structures that have already evolved to absorb small molecules. And you have in the Fitzroy River turtle just the ability to pull in water and put it in those organs and then excrete that water. And they basically breathe. There's this in and out breathing motion that happens, and they get 80% of their oxygen that way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They can actually live without ever coming to the surface if they don't move around too much. But their lungs are better still if they actually breathe in air than absorbing it through the cloaca. But it's just this really hilarious, quirky adaptation. The turtle that breathes. The Australians call it the bum-breathing turtle. So. Yeah.
Well, in an 8th grade science class, that would be probably the highlight of the year.
Oh, yeah.
A turtle that breathes through it. But now I know that you make these videos and they're very good and they're very, obviously they're stated clearly, but I don't crash. But who do you envision when you make the videos?
Yeah, that's a good question. Usually I think about myself when I was about a freshman in high school. That's actually my target audience, just because I know what I was like back then. It's really easy for me to visualize that. And it turns out that visualizing myself when I was a freshman, that actually hits a lot of different age groups. It hits, I would say most of my audience is high school, but a lot of people are using it in middle school. I have homeschoolers that are using it with the kids that are like 8 years old even. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of depends on how much biological background a student has. They can start way early. And then you have people like my old college professor actually says that he uses some of my DNA videos in his 101 courses, because a lot of students haven't had hardly any biology, or they weren't paying attention during middle school and high school during biology. So he uses it not during lectures, but he gives those videos as assignments for people that are struggling. So my target audience is early high school, but that ends up hitting middle school and even college. So.
I just like to say that you're not one of the only resources that we use. Like, as a middle schooler, your channel and the Amoeba Sisters, Crash Course, they're absolutely wonderful resources, and I cannot thank you enough for them, because I know that on some, like before some tests, they have absolutely saved me. So nice. Who would you recommend for us? Yeah, like the watchers, like what other channels or other sources of information would you recommend that we go to when we can't find the exact topic on your channel?
Yeah, well, Amoeba Sisters is awesome. They've pretty much covered everything. Like if you go through a textbook, they've basically got a subject for everything you would see in a textbook, and their videos are more geared than mine are to like a classic textbook curriculum. So they've got mitosis, meiosis, like every little thing that you would think of. They've got a video for that. So they're really good. Just for kind of random exploration, Steve Mould is really good. He just does weird, whatever weird scientific concept he's discovered that's like piqued his curiosity lately, he'll do a video on. And then there's a channel, Smarter Every Day, which his Destin, I can't remember his last name, but Destin is the guy who does that. He's and he'll go explore, I can't remember what he does, what his day job is. I think he does like he flies on like helicopters and planes doing data analysis when they're doing test flights and stuff. But he has a really neat brain for physics. He's done some stuff on biology as well, but like he'll look at the physics that exist in biology. So how does a bird wing work? How does it generate lift and so on? And he has really cool videos on that. They're certainly not geared towards a typical curriculum the way that Amoeba Sisters is, but it's just really good stuff to just get you curious and start thinking about new things. So yeah, those are some of my favorites.
That's amazing. I think now we're going to ask some questions from the audience.
Yes, the first one is the first person you mentioned. Did you say last name Mold?
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Hold on, let me look it up. Let's see.
I'm reading another question. I don't.
Steve Mould. So M-O-U-L-D.
Mould. Oh,
Yeah.
it got spelled correctly. Okay, cool. And Kenny Coogan, thank you. You've added some links to the comment section there. We've got one question, and I know it's coming from a student who's going to be taking biology next year. I think I'm going to defer. Why did monkeys put as much as they could in smarts and not strength? That's a long answer. I think John could probably agree with me on that. So I think I'm going to defer on that one.
Yeah, it'd be hard to
to get into and they didn't necessarily give up strength, Max. Chimpanzees, they're not monkeys, but they could rip your arms off if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I love this comment from Karthika Yerobolu. She says, I'm a medical student. Your videos keep me alive. Keep alive my interest in science, but most of our books less to understand more to memorize. What sources do you suggest to keep my interest alive in science? And she's coming to us from India. How cool is that?
Oh, cool. Is she asking what videos she recommends to keep her alive in science, or what reading material and stuff?
Well, she says sources, so she might be books too.
I'm trying to think.
I'm gonna toss one in there while you're looking.
Well, I mean, Richard Dawkins' stuff is his book, The Selfish Gene, is probably my favorite book on evolution. That really helped me understand evolutionary biology. He also has a series of Christmas lectures that he did that are up on YouTube, which really got me excited about. And actually, it was the Richard Dawkins Christmas lecture series was probably the biggest thing that got me excited about teaching evolution specifically, because before I had watched that series, I didn't know that we knew as much as we did about evolution. So he goes in that series, he goes over the evolution of the eye, and he has these really cool models of how it worked. I mean, like giant 3D models, and he's showing the different stages in eye evolution. And it was just really well done. He had that was with the Royal Institute.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they funded the production of a bunch of different visuals for him during the lecture series, and I had never seen anything like that. It was just really cool to watch. He did that back in the 90s or something.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So
let me see. As far as books go, there's one I think it's called the Machinery of the Cell. Hold on, David Goodsell. He's an artist and a biochemist, and his art is absolutely amazing. The stuff that he does. Yeah. The name of the book is called The Machinery of Life. It's published back in 1993. It is amazing. He has these illustrations of all the different biomolecules inside the cell and how they actually interact with each other. You see all the noise and chaos that exists inside the cell in the most beautiful way that anyone has ever illustrated it. His stuff is really, really good. Just his art. I need to order some of it for my wall because it's so beautiful. But his book describes the biochemistry in a way that it's the best description that I've ever read as far as biochemistry goes. And then his illustrations is kind of like Where's Waldo, because he talks about a specific molecule, what it does, how it works, and you got to find it in this giant mess of a cell amongst all the other different biomolecules that are in there doing their things. And it's really fun. I've spent hours with that book.
Well, I put it into the chat for everybody.
Cool.
And I got a couple more questions for you. Thank you for participating in World Carnivorous Plant Day. Can you give us a sneak peek on an upcoming project you are working on?
Yeah, well, right now I'm doing one on confusion that people have around the term survival of the fittest. So I'm going over what survival actually means in that context and what fittest actually means in that context.
Yes.
Because you get the idea of I've got for the thumbnail I've got Darwin doing like athletics, because that's how people misinterpret it. So we're going to talk about that, what fitness means in this context.
Yes, capital W.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. I'm excited about that. I'm trying to get it out by the 8th, but we'll see, because I want to have it out before school ends so that teachers can use it in their classrooms. But so that's what I'm working on right now. I'm also working with Stuart West, who is at Oxford, and we're doing one on the Parliament of Genes, which talks about the dynamics in the genome that keep cooperation happening. Not really cooperation, but keep different genes from misbehaving and screwing things up for other genes in the genome. And so there's this concept called the Parliament of Genes, where there's actually strong selection pressure for to stop any gene that ends up misbehaving. And so that counteracts any selection pressure that might be encouraging a gene to behave in a way to evolve a function that ends up hurting other genes in the genome. So it's a very technical concept, and the idea confuses a lot of people. And I'm really excited to be able to do this animation with him. He's been just working with me really closely on this to get the script just right, and we'll have that out. We'll definitely have it out for when school starts in the fall. So
great, and we could definitely promote that through ties. Yeah, and here's an interesting question. I think from Mars, we could probably end on this question. Mm-hmm. Being from Oregon, Jon, can you comment in regards to Sasquatch? Do we need evidence to prove something doesn't exist?
I think that going out Bigfoot hunting, not trying to kill it, going out to Bigfoot sighting is a perfectly fine activity if you want to just go have fun in the woods with your buddies. But it's very unlikely at this point, right? So yeah, we have, of course, you can't prove that Bigfoot does not exist. And so that makes it kind of a fun thing that anyone can play with forever, right? You could prove that he does exist by finding him. And, there's lots of different ways to prove that the species does exist. So I think it's I would never fund research in trying to find Sasquatch, right? But I think it's a fine activity for people that want to go do it for fun. So
yeah, get out there and get into the forest bathing, as the Japanese call it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and someone, I suppose it's possible that something out there is still hiding, but most likely people are confusing other sightings of other humans or bears or something with
Andre the Giant,
Bigfoot, right? Yeah.
Well, everybody, this was great. I think I hit all your questions. I don't want to miss any. Well, here's one. I'm sorry. Let's hit Rick O'Keefe here. Hey, Rick from Tampa, Florida. How you doing? Do you have a most difficult concept to illustrate? That's actually a really good question.
Most difficult concept. The most difficult thing that I've tried to tackle would be how ribozymes function. So ribozymes are chains of RNA that fold up into three-dimensional structures, and that the specific three-dimensional shape gives them a specific function. If you look at the animation, what is the RNA world hypothesis? That's where I tried to tackle that. And I feel like I did a pretty good job. My animations are 2D, they're not 3D, but I show how you can have base pairing of certain nucleotides, and it causes the structure to fold up into a three-dimensional shape. And then that can have different interactions with the environment depending on the shape of that structure. That was the hardest thing to tackle because there's just so many moving parts in these ribozymes. And I would like to be able to do that again with proteins, because the same thing is true with proteins. A protein is just a chain of amino acids, and then it folds up into a three-dimensional structure, and that structure determines its function. So But every time I start into a project like that, I'm like, this is going to take a while to animate.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you look at my animations, actually most of it, when you watch the animation, it gives you get a feeling like you just watch a legitimate. The whole thing was nicely animated, but most of it is things coming on screen and then going off screen and something else comes on screen. I also have little kind of puppets that I'll do. So I've got like a crocodile that can snap its mouth and do other things. But a lot of it is fairly simple. When I'm trying to animate how these enzymes work, that's where things get really complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. And that animation is one of the ones that took months to do the animation part. So writing the script wasn't that difficult, but doing the animation took forever.
I'm gonna have to take a look at that one again. Just try to remember which one that is. Okay, well, thank you. I think we hit all the questions and we fit this one into a neat little 30-minute package. I think it's wonderful. We have comments. This is a worthwhile and enjoyable discussion. Very personable. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I love, Miranda, you have a future in broadcasting, my dear. You're really good.
Yeah.
I love the way
Thank
you
you.
segued from one question to the other. This is wonderful. And John, go ahead, Miranda. Have your last say.
Oh, nothing. I've just written too many essays to not know how to segue from one topic to another.
Well, I know her language arts teacher, so I might have to say something to her tomorrow. And John, thank you so much. This was one I was really, really looking forward to. It did not disappoint. And we will be in touch soon.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks for joining, everybody. We had 46 people here with us today, so that's really cool. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast now. Everybody have a good evening.
So long.
Bye, everybody.